As I conducted this final interview with Dr. McGill, there were many apparent specific characteristics and specific actions that conductors need to take in order to become transformational leaders and also or to live the life as of a transformational leader, and also to always ensure that they have the best that they use the best tools to raise the level of musicianship and leadership in their ensembles, and also get the best sound and also following from their choir. The first thing that was apparent from this final interview was he spoke about attitude, and about that the attitude a conductor takes when leading an ensemble is very important. From the standpoint of, at this point where we are musically, we need to move away from trying to simply be autocrats and leading the ensembles as the most knowledgeable person, even though we might be at the point in front of a group of musicians who we do know more about a certain piece of music than, but still always treating them in a fashion that values their experience wherever they may be at whatever level, and also valuing the opinion that they can bring to the ensemble and trying to extract that from them to make your performances better. That we need to also explore and delve further into music in the aspect of looking through music, looking at music in a way that is always from the perspective of that the music has something to offer us every single time we perform it, every time we try to study it. And in that, we should always be trying to do deeper study of the music analytically, historically, spiritually, and personally to find deeper meaning in the works, so that we can perform it in a new, fresh way every single time, drawing on the past experiences. A lot of the things that Dr. McGill tries to do is to be very inclusive and try to get the ensemble to be in a relationship that is cooperating with the conductor rather than being a conductor speaks, ensemble does. And with that in mind, the conductor should try to instill a sense of empowerment to the ensemble that makes them feel as if they are important and makes them feel that they have something to offer with every note they sing, with every word they speak. And with that, we need to engage the choirs in problem solving to expose a way of thinking. Instead of simply asking the choir to do something, Dr. McGill believes that there is an ability for the conductor and a space for the conductor to ask questions that exposes his way of thinking and way of solving problems in a rehearsal. If there is an issue, we can, as a conductor, fix a problem, but then ask a question to the ensemble about, why do you think we chose to work with the outer voices before we worked with the inner voices to fix the tuning? Why do you think? And then ask the ensemble's opinion on what that is, and help the ensemble get to a point where they understand the importance of the tool that you just used and how they can use that tool in their own ensembles, and also how they can use what you just imparted on them to make instances like that not occur when you're working with the ensemble. Dr. McGill likes to use a lot of Socratic questioning, but he says that it is not a there's not a lot of time to do this, and sometimes the conversations can get really far off and on point, far away from the point of what you were trying to originally discuss with the ensemble, but that there should always be a time for the ensemble to extrapolate and move forward and think of the music in such a deep way that allows them to view it in a way that they might not have without being to discuss it in a scholarly manner with others. This act of not always just finding the shortcuts to the problem allows the ensemble to always be thinking about what they're doing, how they did it, and how they can make it better next time. And also, if we don't try to just shortchange ourselves and move through a problem with the quickest amount and the shortest amount of time, we will allow ourselves to be more creative and figure out better ways to prevent the problems from happening in the future. So for that one time where you spend 10 minutes discussing and dialoguing with your choir about tuning, you might then save yourself hours of rehearsing, fixing tuning, because the choir has just gained a tool and understand how they can implement it without even you having to fix it, or without even you having to tell them what to do. That's why Dr. McGill likes to always engage the choir and empower the choir to be in a state of consistent diagnosis with themselves, and always trying to solve the problem as it occurs rather than simply waiting for direction. If we empower our musicians to always be thinking about how they can fix a section of music within their ensemble, within their ensemble as a whole and within their section as a whole, we don't need to spend time as conductors nitpicking what we're doing. And beyond that, we should start to stop viewing the music as a problem and start viewing it as an experience that needs to be had, is what Dr. McGill says. With that in mind, I think that if we move from the perspective of music is very difficult and it's a puzzle that needs to be solved, and change that sentence to read, music is a puzzle and a memory or a thought that needs to be experienced by an audience, and how can we portray that experience to the best of our ability. And then when we ask ourselves those kind of questions, we can move forward instead of trying to get rid of the faults and trying to make less of an issue with the music and make less issues within the music. What we do is we try to then move forward by creating realistic experiences and realistic emotions that come across from the choir to the audience. And when we do that, we try to always be discovering the new truth and the truth within a piece of music, and trying to show that to an audience. The inherent beauty of a piece of music is not going to be apparent to them all the time, but what will be inherent is the dramatic intent of a piece. The audience will have a much easier time understanding the emotion behind a piece more than trying to find its beauty. And that's why conductors need to spend time, and a lot of their prep time, grappling with what the essence of a piece is and what they need to be doing with the ensemble as a whole, and working on what they need to do instead of working on what they need to be doing conducting wise and gesture. They should be worrying about what is the intent of this piece, what do I want the audience to get out of this piece, what do I want my singers to get out of this piece, what do we, the ensemble, need to portray to make this composer's vision come alive. And when we do that, we get away from, oh, this is going to be a difficult passage, this is going to be a difficult section for this choir to understand, this is going to be a difficult piece of music for the ensemble to perform. And when we do that, we give ourselves the opportunity to enjoy the real beauty within the music. When we get to further on in the interview, if you get to read the complete transcription of the third interview, we start to see what Dr. McGill believes in very practically about what he needs to do with the ensemble. And that final video of the interview synthesis and evaluation will be this third part.